right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pitch Breakfast. Welcome to Pitch Breakfast, to another virtual Pitch Breakfast here, November of 2020. We're really excited to have everybody here. We hope you all enjoyed the new video that we put together to kind of introduce you to the Pitch Breakfast and what it's all about. So we are looking forward to having three great companies present today to our panelists, and then have an opportunity for everybody here to network and share with those panelists. And sorry, we're doing the change screen a little differently. As you saw here on the screen, we do ask that everybody keep their videos off and themselves muted so that we can have all of the attention, all of that on the companies that are presenting. If you have questions for the presenters or for the panelists, you can drop those in the chat room, and we're going to try to get to as many questions from the audience as we can. And then this event is being live streamed on both Facebook and YouTube. So if you are on Facebook or YouTube watching this, welcome. We're happy to have you, and we look forward to having you at one of our events here virtually or live sometime in the future. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started and go from there. All right, so Pitch Breakfast, if you've never been before, is the event where entrepreneurs pitch and panelists enrich. We are supported by a handful of companies that have been with us for a while now, helping to make this event possible. And we want to do a really quick introduction to those companies before we dive into the pitches. So first, we want to say a big thank you to Spengler and Agins. Spengler and Agins have been with us since the beginning. They're attorneys for the Charlotte startup community, and they help lots of entrepreneurs, especially those getting started, but also small businesses that are getting ready for early stage funding. And it's where a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs start when they have an idea they want to turn into a business. We also want to give a big thank you to NK Patent Law. NK Patent Law is another law firm that specializes in all things patent, trademark, and IP. If you have an idea and it's something that you want to protect or you want to learn more about how to protect it, NK Patent Law does a great job at answering those questions for you. And then our good friends at Dual Boot Partners. I don't think they've ever missed an event. Dual Boot Partners helps management teams build digital platforms and tech products. They have helped local startup companies with everything from building their MVP to full-on broad tech platforms. And they do that in a way that partners with you as an entrepreneur, as a company. So if you've got any tech need, any digital product, or you're just trying to re-platform an old legacy system, you're going to want to talk to Dual Boot Partners. We also want to give a big thanks to Powderly Vuchnik. Powderly Vuchnik is our CPAs. Really a lot of help throughout the year with bookkeeping and taxes, and they help lots of other small businesses and entrepreneurs in the community with that. And last but not least, TriNet Solutions. If your company has gotten to that point, where you're 3 employees or more, and you're trying to deal with things like payroll, benefits, risk, and compliance, TriNet Solutions can work for companies anywhere from the startup stage all the way on up to enterprise. And they've got cloud-based solutions for all of those companies. And then lastly, when you have a couple attorneys as your partners, you have a legal disclaimer. And our legal disclaimer for Pitch Breakfast is that this event is educational in nature. The companies that are pitching are just practicing and not actually conducting a live securities offering. So none of the companies pitching intend for this to be a general solicitation. So what that means is if they ask for a certain amount of money, they're actually practicing their pitch and not actually soliciting that from the audience. All right, so we're going to dive into the presentations. And again, we're going to have an opportunity to network and meet these companies after the presentations are over. So stay tuned and you'll learn a little bit more about how you can do that. So today's pitch format is our standard format where the companies have 5 minutes to present their business model with slides. And then our panelists will have 10 minutes to provide feedback and ask clarifying questions. And our panelists really do a great job of drawing out those insights and hitting on the key points that these companies need to hit on if they're having an investor meeting. So pay close attention to the questions and feedback that our panelists give. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Rob and Daniel, feel free to turn your cameras on. We have Rob Cummings, who's a private equity entrepreneur, has been in the investment space and also a software executive here for quite some time, and is definitely a recognizable face in the local entrepreneurial community. Rob, thank you so much for joining us this morning as one of our panelists.
Thanks, Juan. Glad to be here.
And then we've got Daniel Friel. Daniel, I think you've been with us since the very beginning. So we want to say a big thank you for being a part of Pitch Breakfast now for almost 8 years. Daniel here has been an innovator, has been on several boards, has been a founder himself, and works with lots of tech companies and entrepreneurs here in the community. Daniel, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And with that, we're going to introduce today's company, and we're going to have the first companies go ahead and get set up. We have 3 companies today, the teams from Undergrads, Student Moving, Cargo Labs, and also Trado. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started and have 10 minutes here for Undergrads as they get set up.
5 minutes.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And whenever you guys are ready, feel free to share screen.
If we could again ask everyone to turn off their video.
Yeah, sorry. If just so that we can make sure that all the pitchers can see Laura with the time, we're going to ask everybody to turn off their cameras and mute their mics while they're on. All right, we got Laura with the high-tech timer system.
Very
All right, Thomas, whenever you're ready to share screen, you can go ahead and do that.
It's not letting me share.
It's disabled.
Hold on one quick second. All right, sorry about that. Try it again.
We see it.
All right, we see it. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and get started.
All right. Second, I'm trying to get the bar out of the way so I can make it full screen.
Slideshow. Yeah. Beginning. Are we good?
Yep, we see it.
Perfect. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Chris.
And I'm Tom.
And we're the co-founders of undergrads.com. It's a well-known fact that moving just sucks. Every one of you in the audience today has moved at some point in your life, and I'm willing to bet that you can think of a minimum one experience that was just a nightmare. The problem with moving is that you get these unprofessional, shady, and just in general types of people that you wouldn't want in your house coming out to move your things. And then when you pair that with the excessive prices these companies charge, it's just an overall bad experience. But you're not alone in this. 10% of the population moves every single year and faces these exact same challenges.
Welcome to Undergrads, the high-tech alternative to traditional moving. The Undergrads platform utilizes the 5,300 U.S. colleges in the United States to make moving more reliable, affordable, and enjoyable. This is done through 3 ways. We use clean-cut, reliable student contractors from local universities to give our customers someone that they can trust and rely on in their homes. And we deliver our moving service 40% cheaper than traditional moving companies by eliminating trucks entirely from the equation and allowing our customers to rent and drive their own trucks through U-Haul or Penske. And this is all made possible through our proprietary platform that allows our customers to get connected with students in the area and keep our business asset light. Rather than having someone come out to their homes to give them a quote in person, our customers simply get a quote online on our website through our machine learning algorithm and can book in less than 2 minutes. And all this information pushes into our internal iOS app that all of our students are going to be on. These student contractors enter their availability based around their class schedule, can then accept and complete jobs depending on where they are and what they want to do. And then after the job is completed, similar to other gig economy platforms, our customers rate and review each of the movers to maintain quality in each location as we scale.
Now, the 15.3 million households that moved last year make up the $12 billion US moving residential industry. We're targeting the 50% of those individuals that classify themselves as what we call hybrid movers. These individuals don't want to pay for a full service moving company, but also either can't or just don't want to do the entire move themselves. So they use a business model like ours, where they rent a truck themselves and then hire labor to do all the heavy lifting. And we're confident that by the end of 2026, we can be in 52 markets across the US, servicing $52 million in revenue. And we've proven this works over the last 3 years. We founded Undergrads in 2018 in the small town of Clemson, South Carolina. That first year, we did $120,000 in revenue. Since then, we've expanded into 3 additional markets and are now projecting to finish 2020 at $650,000 in revenue. And the way we make money is simple. We bill each of our customers directly and pay our movers an hourly rate. And to put some numbers behind that, our average order value per customer is $300, and our average cost of labor on a move is $120, giving us gross profit margins of 60%.
And our competitive landscape is extremely fragmented with platforms, marketplaces, and a ton of mom and pop moving companies that are extremely outdated. Now, whether you go with one of the platforms or marketplaces or one of the mom and pop shops, you still do not know who you're going to get step into your home to do that service. Now, our competitive advantage that makes us more affordable and reliable is our technology and our brand. Our technology makes us more affordable by allowing us access to the best quality labor in the area, which is the students. And then we become more reliable through our brand because our customers know the exact type of person that's going to come do that service before they even book. And in the future, we're an extremely appealing acquisition target for anyone who wants access to the hybrid moving market, if they want to get into the smaller moves, or someone who wants access to our technology stack, similar to U-Haul, who wants more control of the entire moving process.
Now, logistics and technology are the backbone of our organization, so we're the perfect team to execute on this. I've got the logistics background, having worked at UPS as a supply chain consultant and later at Corksicle as a project manager.
And I've got the technology background, where I worked as a product manager within Ernst & Young's corporate venturing group out of New York City, where I launched the first cryptocurrency tax SaaS offering of the Big Four.
And on our board of advisors is Dave Jones, as well as Louis Foreman. And now we're seeking $400,000. Our technology's gotten us this far, but we feel now is the best time to make the improvements needed to get us the next 3 to 5 years. That's why we'll invest $300 of the $400,000 into technology, and the remaining $100,000 will be spent to hire resources needed to manage that growth. So thank you all for your time today, and we look forward to answering any questions.
5 seconds to spare. Awesome. Setting the bar.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Great pitch. And now, Daniel, Rob, whoever wants to get it kicked off.
Rob, if you're okay, I'll start. Hey guys, super job. Just getting it in the 5 minutes is definitely not an easy thing to do. So well rehearsed, well done in getting that. I really like the presentation. As Laura just said, I do think you've set the bar here for today. Couple of quick observations. One, I love that you laid out the problem right around kind of the moving sucks, right, and why it did. I think that's good. I've got 4 kids, and I can't tell you how many times I've moved them over the last decade or helped them move, right? So I'm very familiar with the problem. In fact, I just moved my youngest daughter just a couple of weeks ago, so know the problem well. You're a couple of real positives, right? One, the market overview that you gave, I think that was good, right? You were kind of addressing what was the addressable market. You ran through and said you wanted to get into 52 markets, right? And I think you were going quickly at this point, so I think it was 52 markets and 52 million in revenue, right? Which implied if I can't do math really well, but I can divide 52 into 52, so that's $1 million per market. And one of the things that I would have loved to see you spend a little more time of how do you hit that million in each market, right? And again, I think you had a pretty nice progression of revenue from your current locations, but that's, from an investor perspective, one of my big questions is, okay, it's nice that you're saying it's $1 million a market. What do you get there? How much of the market penetration are you getting to get there, et cetera? I'd love to have seen just a little bit more detail on that. I'm a huge fan, by the way, of your competitive landscape. So, and I can tell one of you had done some of the Big Four consulting things. So I could tell you're very familiar with the Magic Quadrant, and I love that you were in the upper right of that Magic Quadrant. It was nice to see that, and very good and descriptive for a potential investor. Like the part on the team, and actually listing your advisors on there as well, both of whom I know very well, by the way. So congrats on getting them lined up to do that. That was very good. And I like the very clear-cut ask, right? We've got $400,000 that you're looking to raise, and you had a very good description of use of funds, which a lot of folks don't do. So really, really nice job. And I'm going to stop there, hand it over to Rob, and I'll come back maybe with some additional questions for you.
Great. Thanks, Daniel. Guys, first of all, nice job on the presentation. I think you don't see many presentations where you go back and forth between the two founders. I think it worked really well for you all. I think you guys play off of each other nicely. So first of all, I did a little research last night. I really liked your website. Then I went on to Facebook and I got the Facebook ad. So I think you're doing the digital marketing correctly. And the screenshots that you showed of your technology, it's a real clean user interface. I'm a technology guy, so certainly appreciate that. Challenge that I think you have is that there's a lot of competitors in the market, and it's a very fragmented market. If you just do a search on Aller, you'll get a long list of competitors. Personally, I see these college hunts signs all over my neighborhood and other neighborhoods I visit. I personally used Bellhops a couple years ago for a move. So a couple of questions I have for you is I didn't really get a clear-cut understanding as to, I know you showed the quadrant, but how you're different than those platforms. So I'd like to understand a little bit more about that. The other thing is that this is all about digital marketing. It's a B2C platform and getting the word out. As I said, the Facebook ad is following me around, so I think that's a good thing. That's the other question I have for you is how are you getting your name out there so that when people think I need to move, they're not thinking of college hunks because they just saw the sign in the neighborhood. They're going to think undergrads and contact you guys. So how do you become top of mind, and how are you going to continue that as you expand to different markets? So I'll pause there and let you answer those questions.
So to answer the first one about Bellhops, that was sort of our thought from the beginning, is there's going to be just hundreds, thousands of these companies out there doing the same thing. And in some way, you have to differentiate yourself. If we launched Bellhops 2.0 and it was just another technology-driven moving service, well, we would be the same. So that's why we went with the Undergrads brand. So, it takes a while to build it up, but then once you are that brand, it creates something that anyone who thinks, okay, I'm moving, well, I've heard of Undergrads. They're the company that uses students. My sons or daughters are in school. I want to support them, and I know they're going to do a good job. So really, our differentiator is going to be built around the brand of undergraduate students. And then to answer the second question about how you acquire customers, yeah, it's all digital advertising as well as SEO. Moving is one of those things that people are going to make the decision to move and make the purchase within the next 2 weeks, typically 7 days. So by ranking highly on SEO, locally specific, that's how when these people search for movers, they find you. And then secondly is just using digital advertising to retarget these individuals once they start that process, knowing that you've got about 2 weeks to get them to make the purchase.
Gotcha. And are you doing all of your digital marketing in-house, or are you outsourcing that?
We outsource our Google and our Facebook ads.
Okay.
As well as our
Is there a franchise model in the future?
We thought about franchising, but decided to go the technology route and keep it in-house simply because of quality. We've seen a lot of companies go the franchise route and lose quality immediately, especially in the service industry. And as soon as you start to drop quality in the service industry, you're over. It's done.
Right. So that leads me to my last question. I'll let Daniel chime in. Is the quality? So, you showed the creepy guy on the first slide there, but how do you make sure your undergrads aren't creepy guys also? Do you go through do you have a screening methodology that you go through?
Yeah, right now we let the universities vet them in the first place. So if you're a university student, you're pretty high caliber. And then from there, once they apply, they submit a video that basically gets them started in the application process. We review the videos and then bring them on the platform accordingly. We have a phone call, initial phone screening with them. And then if they check all the boxes, they then pass basically a 20-question quiz to make sure that they understand how the moving industry works, what they're going to be doing. And then once they get 100% on that quiz, they then get brought onto the platform. So it's about as good as it can get as far as screening that people coming on gets.
And do you pay them immediately when the job is complete?
Right now it's a rolling 7 days, so we pay out every Sunday.
I think about doing that because as a college undergrad, you need your beer money for the night, for that evening. So, and I know there's some platforms out there that facilitate that. Anyway, I'll be quiet here. Daniel, I'm sure you have additional questions.
I do several. So I want to dig a little further on the screening question, right? So do you guys do background checks at all then on the people that apply or not?
We do not right now, but that's something we want to do in the next phase.
Okay, fair enough. And then I was trying to get the I think if I remember the slides correctly, you're getting $300 average revenue, and then I think your cost that you cited there was 120.
That's correct.
So does that cost include all of the customer acquisition costs, or is that just the cost to fulfill? Help me understand what that includes.
That's just simply cost of labor. Our customer acquisition cost right now is $27.
Okay. So all in, then if you did the kind of the gross margin, then on top, you looks like you're pretty close to 50%.
That's right.
Okay. And then I wanted to, if you look at this process of moving, right? So you've still got the way your model works. The mover themselves, the customer has to get the truck and do all the rental truck information. And I know you said down the road you were looking at, do you partner? Because again, right now, if you walked into a U-Haul, are they already partnered with somebody that's saying, hey, I've got labor that I can help you fulfill?
They don't partner with any individual. They've got their own platform that they've built that basically offers different companies as moving labor, sort of like a Craigslist, but for moving.
Okay. And then how would you, do you see yourself kind of trying to figure out how to get, it's just easier there, right? You're going to rent the truck. How do you become the first place to stop as opposed to the sort of one shopping experience when you're running the truck and can kind of get all the moving stuff lined up?
So we would just do it reverse. So they would rent the movers, and then after they rent the movers through us, we could then facilitate the a U-Haul or truck rental through an iframe, where they would just check out the truck themselves on our website.
And is there potential revenue to be had there from a referral?
Yep, U-Haul and Penske both have referral programs. We just haven't been able to set them up yet.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, very good. Very good presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and congrats on your success so far.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Great pitch, undergrads team. Yeah, we'll give you the virtual Zoom applause here.
Thank you.
And we're going to go ahead and share screen real quick while I make a very fast announcement. And then we'll get back to our second company pitching. So we have several events coming up in the next couple of weeks. And the first of these is starting tomorrow. It's the New Ventures Demo Day. So New Ventures out of the Triad area is having their demo day. And you can find that on Eventbrite. Just search New Ventures. But it is tomorrow and Friday, and it's for startups and investors. They've got a few Charlotte companies and investors and speakers from around the state. So you can check that out by going to Eventbrite and looking up new ventures on Eventbrite. So with that, we're going to have the Cargo Labs team come on and go ahead and share screen whenever you guys are ready, and then we'll be all set to for our second company. All right, guys, we can see your screen, so you should be good to go there.
All right.
And do you both see me? Are you good?
Yeah, I can see. Yep.
Perfect. All right, I will start whenever you guys start.
All right, thanks so much. So hi, we are Cargo Labs Incorporated, a financial technology company for truckers. I'm Jake, the tech guy, and John is our industry expert.
Good morning, guys. Thank you, thank you, Pitch Breakfast as well. And also thank you, Dual Boot as well. You guys will probably have a lot to say. And it's cool to see the other supply chain people are in this as well, too. So we are working on fintech for truckers. And basically what that means is rewarding, in particular, refrigerated truck drivers for their good work and good service.
Yeah, and we are building a suite of supply chain solutions to help truckers compete in the digital supply chain revolution that's underway right now.
Yeah.
Excellent. So this is the size of our market. It's estimated by the year 2026 that we will see a $94.9 billion a year tech spend. And Trackport is targeting a $3 billion total addressable market with its, and that's Cargo Labs' initial flagship platform.
Yeah, so that would be Trackport. And Trackport focuses on the visibility problem, in particular visibility problem in refrigerated trucking. So you've experienced symptoms of this problem before, actually. When toilet paper was not in the stores, a large part of that was because people weren't able to predict the future. They weren't able to predict the demand for toilet paper and weren't able to get trucks to warehouses to ship toilet paper on time, et cetera. So what the issue is it's technological and it's business related. So from the technological standpoint, there are hardware and software trackers that work well for large companies, but that small to medium-sized brokerages or supply chain intermediaries don't necessarily find satisfactory. The reason they don't find satisfactory is for some numbers and some expectations. So 97% of trucking companies in the United States operate with around 20 or less trucks. Many of those trucks are even owner operators. So it's kind of like herding cats. You've got a ton of private contractors that you might not work with, and you're trying to figure out where they are minute by minute, which is in particular in refrigerated freight is very, very important. On top of that, kind of we spoke about it already, there's a heightened want and need for groceries and refrigerated items or vaccines to be delivered next day or really soon. Call that the Amazon effect, so high expectations. And so the way that these supply chain intermediaries try to do things is carrot and stick method. So there's the stick method where we really try to force these independent drivers or yell at them or fine these independent drivers for not reporting back their location information. And then there's the carrot method, which I would call some technology that's going on. So there's hardware tracking that's actually native to truck drivers' trucks. And then there's software tracking that would be on each driver's phone. The issue with both of these solutions is that they're proving to be really difficult to become scalable. So hardware tracking is really difficult in an extremely fragmented industry. There's about 55 to 60 trucking companies per brokerage. So if these are people that you don't interact with a lot, it's hard to connect to their truck. It takes kind of weeks to do that. And on the software side, where truck drivers use apps to track themselves, truck drivers don't necessarily want to use the apps. And both the apps and the hardware are really, really expensive to onboard because players in the industry have had to develop, essentially software players in the industry have had to develop individual solutions for many, many of their customers. And so when a trucking company goes and say, hey, I want to track my driver through technology, the onboarding costs can be $10,000, they can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And these are companies that are operating on margin. A lot of times the supply chain, the customers that are using this tracking technology, and it's not always affordable for them.
Yeah, and that brings us to our solution. So the Trackport platform touched on that a bit earlier, and it is a mobile app for drivers, and they can download it now both on iOS, which launched last December, and Android as of October. And then there's also a web app for brokers where they can log in and see where their drivers are on a map. And that the mobile app produces 1-minute geolocation updates. And the key about our platform is that we pay the drivers for every update that they create. So they actually have a direct cash incentive to be able to participate in our network. And we're calling the cash payment system Cargo Cash. And so every update they make, they get Cargo Cash deposited into their digital wallet address on the mobile app, and they can withdraw that like PayPal or Venmo to their bank account. Yeah. And our current status touched on the we'll look.
Yeah, so we're working with the customer right now. They're doing about 3,000 loads a month, and they like us because we're flexible. We offer them software tracking for their outside drivers. We also are something affordable for them, and they're hauling a lot of refrigerated. They're only hauling refrigerated produce. And next slide, I think, Jake.
And so we're looking to raise between $500,000 to $1 million. Is the breakdown of what we expect to plan use that money to go towards. So far, we have 125,000 committed, so we're looking for an additional 375 plus. And that's Cargo Labs.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you, guys. Great pitch. And now, Daniel, Rob, to you guys.
Rob, I'll let you lead this time.
Okay. Good. Thanks for the good pitch, guys. Again, similar to undergrads, I was checking out the website last night. My initial question was, when just kind of going through the website and as well as listening to your pitch, is what's in it for the driver? So why are they going to use this? And so I'm still not completely clear on what Cargo Cash is. So you're paying them for each check-in. And then if you can just talk about the solution today, I think you can go in many, many different directions here. One direction I would absolutely recommend is automating the bill of lading process, but we can talk about that in a bit. Yeah. But is the solution just have the geo tracking functionality today? And then what does the roadmap look like in the future for the product?
Yeah, those are great questions. So the Cargo Cash payment system, I'll start with that. It's going to be powered by Stripe. It's not live just yet, but we have a placeholder inside of the iPhone app and the Android app where they can see a digital balance when it's ready. And we're just going to plug into Stripe's network. They have a digital wallet feature, and they also support debit cards. So we can get a debit card that links right to our app. They can spend the money anywhere that accepts Visa or MasterCard. And that's the idea of Cargo Cash. And then eventually we might look to do things in-house and cut down on the Stripe transaction fee. But that's years away, probably. And then to your other point about how many updates it works and how they get paid. So every update they produce, we produce them in the background every minute. And that's what we credit the driver as he's driving. And so he has a certain number of updates that we're estimating he can create for a load. And if he produces enough of them, he gets paid all the money. If he produces less, then he gets paid less. And our current customer didn't love our initial idea where we let them set the price for how much the driver would make, because we were thinking if they're hauling iPhones, it might be more important to know where those are than a load of lettuce. So maybe you spend $100 to know where that truck is hauling the iPhones, but maybe only $10 for the lettuce. But instead, it sounds like everyone's more used to a flat fee structure. So that's what we're doing right now.
I would also add as well, automation is a big thing for the user and the customer, in particular for the user. So large brokerages or large companies will hire entire teams of workers to just provide location updates, to just track trucks. And it works both ways. So the trucking company or the truck driver also needs these automation to get out their location updates to their customers. It kind of goes up the food chain, right? So what we provide for the driver is the driver from us, basically the driver gets to tell their customers when they're 60 miles out, when they're 30 miles out, when they're 15 miles out, when they've arrived. The driver gets to upload their BOL, and we are very interested in furthering digital BOL and automated BOL. Another thing too that drivers have talked about a lot is a contactless check-in, but more than that, really check-in as soon as the driver even hits the geofence. So there's already some contactless check-in where a driver maybe can walk up to an area and say that they checked in and press some buttons without talking to a human. Even better, in particular for refrigerated tracking, but refrigerated tracking is minute by minute. It's so important that we know where these things are. Even allowing the drivers to check in with their trailer number, with their BOL, their items, as they're even passing into the geofence would save a lot of drivers and customers time and headache.
And also a little bit more on the BOL system we have today. Currently, we have Amazon S3 buckets that are set up to host a picture of the BOL. The paper copy we let the drivers take a picture on the phone and then upload to our servers, and then make that visible to the brokers or anyone else in the supply chain who might be interested. And we also trigger email alerts. We have nested geofences as the drivers get closer and closer to the destination. It triggers alerts that go off to anyone who they want to put in this email system to say, hey, I just arrived on this truck, I'm on this load, is what time it is. You can expect me kind of around this time. And then the BOL is also attached to the email when they leave the region. It sends the picture of the BOL if it exists. And in the future, what we're also working on currently right now, getting the BOL onto a blockchain platform, EOS.io. That's the one we're looking at. And if we could create some sort of open source, decentralized system where we could store all these, a digital version of the BOL rather than just a paper copy, that could help automate a lot more processes in the supply chain. We were trying to do it initially with detention pay, but that turned out to be a little bit more challenging because the BOL is what everyone references, but there's no digital copy of this BOL. So if we could create a digital copy of it and then connect it to the piece of paper with maybe a QR code that links into our digital backend, that could be how we have some sort of initial segue step. But
so I think, as I mentioned, I think you can go in a number of different directions here, and it sounds like you have your ideas for a number of different directions with the technology. I just recommend maybe a slide on the product roadmap that shows what is available today. You know, what are the high priority items that you're going to deliver as part of digitizing the freight carrier and timeline as to when that's going to come. Over to you, Daniel.
Sure. Guys, good job on the presentation. A couple of questions. So one, I got a little, I'm like Rob, who does his homework. I purposely don't do mine because I want to see what I can get out of the presentation, right? And so just a couple of bits of feedback there. I was a little lost. You did such a brain dump of information up front. It took me probably longer than it should have to focus on what problem you were solving and how you were solving it, right? Because you did a lot about market sizing, but I kind of got a little bit lost when you talked about, well, we're focused on refrigerated freight, and at that point, then I was unclear of, well, what chunk of the market that you just talked about was really refrigerated freight. So I was a little lost on kind of market size and where you were focused. The next thing, again, simplifying the problem definition of what's the problem you're solving, and the problem was that for these carriers, right, their customers need to know where their stuff is in real time, and that information's not readily available. So I would do a little bit more of a very simple problem statement, and then the idea, I got a little bit lost on, okay, well, what's the economic model? How are you guys making money? You're paying the drivers, right, when they upload. I got that, but it was a little less clear of, okay, well, who's paying you, right? Who's paying you to be enable that, and how much is that worth to them, right? So this whole idea of, okay, the whatever it was, 18,000 brokerage, right? 97% with less than 20 trucks. They need to know. Their customers need to know where stuff is. There's a value attached to that. Help me understand a little bit about that side, right? What is that worth to them? What is it? What are you paying the drivers? And then what margins do you guys make, right? So to get an investor excited about this, you got last company, right? They had a 50% gross margin. That's not bad, right? What's your gross margin? I didn't have enough information in this presentation to get there.
Sure. And so a couple of things on that. So we do have some investment, and we have our first customer that's moving 3,000 loads a month.
Yep.
So yes, our value prop is for these small to medium sized carriers and intermediaries that are moving refrigerated freight. They need that refrigerated freight tracked. And the reason I bring up refrigerated freight is because refrigerated freight costs about 50% more tracking that than does even regular dry freight in many instances. Right. So that's where we got that original number in the beginning, the $3 billion number. That comes from estimating basically the current tracking costs in the market, and then the refrigerated tracking costs. So that's where that comes from. So for instance, our customer does 36,000 loads a year. They're only doing refrigerated freight. That's going to cost them roughly $1,000 a year to track refrigerated freight, and they're using humans. That's $12 a load. We are bringing that down by around half, if not even less than half, for the customer. So that's the value prop for them, is using technology, and using our technology with our specific options for refrigerated freight is what they use. Now, yes, we will be giving or rewarding drivers, incentivizing drivers basically to have better tracking outcomes for our customers. And right now, our customers, really, we're just practicing even the tracking with our customers. Right now, it depends on the customer and depends on how they want to reward their drivers. So what I do is I go to the customers and I say, well, what's your broker to driver ratio? And so if one customer is using the same drivers a lot, then maybe they don't necessarily want to necessarily share the money or share the rewards with the driver, but perhaps the customer is paying us a higher margin, right, for tracking the load. If the customer has a lot of trucks per broker, then we go into that reward system and say, hey, you're having a really hard time tracking these trucks because you don't know them very well. Use our system and use the money you're already paying to track, right? That $400-some thousand already paying to track, to use our system to have better tracking outcomes. But I really appreciate the feedback. You're definitely correct about that.
All right. With that, I think we're good on time. If you've got any questions for the Cargo Labs team, feel free to drop that in the chat, or be sure to stick around after the pitches to join the networking portion where you get to meet Jake and John and ask them questions yourselves. So guys, thank you so much. Oh,
Great job.
One second, Juan. John and Jake, the one thing, I think you're trying to cram a lot of information into your pitch here. I think you just, especially in that one slide, John spent a lot of time on it. I think you just want to separate out your thoughts and make sure you hit on several key points. So let me just rattle this off really quick. I look for 8 things in a pitch: your market, how do you make money, or your financials, how are you different than the competition, tell me about your team, tell me about the traction you have, what is your ask, what problem are you solving, and how are you going to win? Those are the things that you absolutely want to hit on. And I know I can put this in chat later, but I think you want to make sure your slides go through. It's really hard to do in 5 minutes, and I get it. And your product is somewhat complicated to explain, so you have to partition all of that out. But think through that as you organize your next pitch deck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Rob. We're going to put that on a loop and just run that. That's how we're going to do that. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good job, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. So with that, we're going to be moving on to our third and final team for today, the Trado team. And while they're getting set up, while they're getting their microphone and slides and all of that set up, we do have another event that we want to let you know about next week. Actually, 2 different events that you should know about next week. First, it's the Venture 135 conference, and that's Charlotte's premier venture conference, covering all things fintech, insurtech, health tech, and even sort of a local company portion that they're going to have there. That is November 16th through the 20th, next week, starting next Monday. And you can learn more about that, register to join at venture135.com. So again, that is a venture conference here in Charlotte. It's happening virtually next week. And also happening next week at the same time, but maybe for a slightly different audience, if you are in the ecosystem building world. In other words, you're an organization that supports entrepreneurs. The NC IDEA Virtual Ecosystem Summit is happening next Monday and Tuesday. And that is the sort of a statewide, North Carolina statewide group of ecosystem builders, ecosystem organizations that sort of help the entrepreneurial ecosystem, getting together and learning about how to better do that, connecting with each other and other resources throughout the state. You've got the link here, ncidea.org. You can just go to that and you can find it there, or you can go directly to the 2020-ecosystem-summit. So 2 different events, depending on if you're in the investor or founder community, or if you're in the ecosystem building community, that you may want to check out next month or next week. All right. With that, I think it looks like we've got Sophia ready to go. So whenever you want to share your screen, Sophia.
Perfect. Share.
You should be a co-host, so I think you should be able to share screen.
Is it working?
See anything yet?
I'm not seeing it yet.
Yeah. Nope. Ah, 1 second. For some reason, it's not letting me share.
Hold on.
Security.
All right, so you're as co-host. So down at the bottom, it should say share screen.
Yeah, I'm pressing it.
If you're good, if I have it up, if you would like me to, and then you can just have me advance it. Is that okay? Or did you update or anything?
That would be great, actually. Yeah.
All right.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Share mine,
Not opening.
and then
Thank you.
All right, so we'll run the slides here from Laura's screen, and then Sophia, whenever you're ready, you can.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, I'm Sophia, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Trado. Next slide. Laura, sorry. Our history is dying. 2 years ago, I thought my mother was dying of cancer. And for 12 months, there was one thing that kept running through my mind. If she died, there was so much I didn't know and so much I hadn't asked. And if I didn't soon, I wouldn't be able to pass down to my children. A year down her recovery, the issue had not left my mind. What happened to the stories we loved? Stories like my mother, an immigrant from Iran, were getting drowned out by the biographies focusing on the white and wealthy 1%. Digital snapshots were a storage in time that had the potential to be lost. Other options didn't facilitate any interaction between family members and expected customers to write their own biographies. What this resulted in was a history of wealthy, successful people, and the history of the people we loved were irrelevant and lost. History and publishing just hadn't been democratized yet, and as a result, unheard voices remained unheard. Especially in today's world where our loved ones are sick and stuck at home, the need to learn and hold on to their stories is paramount. But what does a solution look like? Well, to start, the solution is not exclusive. The average ghostwriter costs over $10,000, and most people can definitely not afford that. The solution is not time-consuming. You shouldn't have to train to be a writer, just have your voice heard. And finally, the solution is durable, unlike VHS tapes and memories flashing up on Facebook. There should be a simple and accessible way for people's voices to be remembered. That's what Trado is, and that's what we do. Trado is a web application that asks you interesting and created questions, records your answers, and turns them into a professionally, beautifully written bound book. From war stories to immigration tales to love stories and more, we use custom machine learning to turn audio recordings into cleansed and polished texts. Trado has a database of custom tailor-made prompts from question topics as general as love life to as specific as life working on a cattle farm that generate specific interview questions through our machine learning. From here, our customers record their answers in our in-house app, also having options to create their own questions or select from other topics that we believe could be applicable to their lives. As they record, our voice-to-book technology gets to work, transcribing, cleansing, and polishing their story. The final part, which as a journalist I really love, is that professional writers come in and use their skills to polish up the story. 3 weeks down the line, a professionally written book about you is delivered to your door. Oh, next slide, sorry. When it comes to competition, Trado intersects a number of different industries, including transcription, storytelling, publishing, and genealogy. However, whilst we may intersect those areas, no one is doing what we're trying to do. While our transcription capabilities are nothing like Amazon's, we are not a transcription company. We're the only accessible, fast, and technology-driven solution trying to bring self-publishing to every person. So when it comes to our market sizing, when we looked at it, our most robust and significant results came from upper class, middle-aged incomers, probably about the 10% of earners, and 75% at that time said they would be interested in Trado's initial product. That leads to a bottom-up market opportunity of $1.2 billion, which is assuming we only exclusively offer family history books and capture 50% of those top earners. However, if we branch into other products beyond family histories, we then compete with story publishing and family preservation and address a $4 to $10 billion market. So where are we right now? So we verified our first product, which is writing family history books. And just through that, we have a waiting list of over 200 plus people. We've developed our MVP and reduced cost of goods sold from $2,500 to $50. We've hired pro writers, we've had investment from a very well-known publishing firm, and we've also released our new beta, which now has 30 people on it. So what's coming next? We are currently initiating our outbound sales with elderly care partners. We're going to onboard our entire waiting list and hopefully sell 1,086 books, which is one more than the most books to be written by one person. But family history is just the beginning, where we've had so much interest from real estate, medical, executive, legal areas saying that they want to use our API. So when they even record, anything can become professionally written. We've even had a partnership with Duke Medical School documenting patient experiences. And just a little bit about my team. I graduated from Duke this year with a major in history and a minor in journalism. And my co-founder, who sadly couldn't be on this call, is La Tech Wiz, and has run multiple startups and is a partner at the Duke Accelerator. And our advisor, Greg Shaw, is a founding investor in Clyde Hill Publishing and wants us to bring highbrow publishing to the masses. And we're currently looking for $250,000 to fulfill existing orders and fast track the next 12 months of product development. Thank you so much.
Yes, virtual Zoom clap there for Sophia. Thank you so much. That was a great pitch. And Daniel and Rob, take it away.
Rob, I'll let you go first.
Okay, Sophia, I love this idea. It's really cool, and congratulations on your success. So I just put in the chat the 8 things I look for in a pitch, and I think you hit on 7 of them. So really nice job with the pitch. I also like your open, just a personal story about your mom. That always just grabs the attention of the audience. So I think that's great. I think on the how you make money. So it sounds like you're charging $150 per book. Is that right? Yeah. Or are there different tiers? Because to tell someone's life story, there's probably the simple view, but then there's the, you could definitely see a silver, gold, platinum type of offering here.
Well, actually in the middle of that. So a lot of people actually don't want professional writers. So you have the base tier, which would be just you have a basic transcription and we guide you through the process. The second would be the professional writers, and the more time they spend on it, and the more intricate the story becomes, you pay more. And the final, which we're trying to implement in the next couple of months, is including transcription of home videos or adding photos, et cetera, et cetera. So the tier system is definitely somewhere where we see ourselves actually making more money.
So talk to me about that entree tier. Can that be automated through your transcription service?
Yeah.
Because that's where you really have scale. If you can charge $150 and you're just utilizing your transcription service to produce the book, and maybe all that you're doing with humans is reviewing the final product, I think that's where you have scale.
So our fundraising predominantly is going into natural language processing. So the goal would be what ends up happening is our API is pretty great right now, but the goal would be that the API, the ultimate goal of it is to transform readable sentences to make them more concise, right? And make them more legible and exciting to read. So yeah, that's the ultimate goal, is that people will be able to not even the goal is to kind of gradually take the professional writers out unless people want that human experience,
Yeah, so that my 2 recommendations would be that is if you can make that first tier as scalable as possible by utilizing technology. The second thing is can you turn this into a B2B offering? You did mention selling into elder care providers, but if that could be part of their offering, that they're going to go. The elder care provider is going to be with my mother 3 days a week. And if a service that they can provide is transcribing her life story, and you're actually getting paid by the elder care providers, that becomes really interesting. It turns a B2C business into a B2B to C business, which I think changes the entire outlook of the company. Is that also the goal?
So actually, we're very weirdly, uniquely positioned in this elderly community. So Max, my co-founder, who sadly couldn't be here, he ran a funeral tech company and still kind of does. And we now have a network of 200,000 elderly care homes around the world that we do believe want and use this service. So I think going into Q1 of next year, that's going to be our goal of like really tapping into them and seeing what we can get out of it. So yes, for sure.
Do you have any of those signed up yet?
We haven't actually reached out to them yet because our waiting list is pretty extensive and we're just going through our beta. But the goal is once we're ready and up and running, that will be the next step after doing our wait list.
Okay, and is your beta just, it's the B2C portion is just, you have a backlog stacked up?
Yeah.
Okay. Really interesting idea. I like it a lot. Over to you, Daniel.
Sophia, great job, and I'll hit a couple points that Rob's done. But I love starting out with a personal story about your mom. Right, that it's always nice to understand that motivation of what got you here. I think again, this idea of history is written by the winners. Here's a way to get a broader experience is an interesting point. The fact that you're driving this by AI, I think is really fascinating. And as you were going through that, there were a couple of folks. Are you in Charlotte or are you in the Raleigh-Durham area?
Me, currently in Boston, but I was in Durham.
Okay. Because there are a couple of companies there that you want to that may be really interesting connections. There's a company called K4 Connect, and they're doing technology. They're providing technology to retirement communities, simplifying technology, right, to keep retirees connected to their families. That may be a very, very interesting potential channel for you. So let me know if, and the founder there is a great guy. He was the guy that did the fingerprint ID Authentic for the Apple iPhone.
Oh, wow.
Great guy. And then there's another AI company that's doing some really interesting work on conversational AI. I'm sure you've probably used an Alexa device. Well, the original founding technology for that was actually built right here in North Carolina by a company called Yap, and the founder there, Igor Yablokov, has now created a new company out of Raleigh called Prion, and they're doing conversational AI. So it's a really interesting technology that might be an interesting tool for you to at least look at. And happy to make those connections for you offline. Getting back, and then one other piece here, I was fascinated when you talked about the patient experience and some of what you did for Duke. That's interesting because there are obviously a couple of big healthcare companies here where that could be interesting. So I'd love, Sophia, just to get a little bit more background from you on not on this conversation, but offline on what you did there, because as it turns out, I'm actually meeting with a very senior innovation executive at a big healthcare company tomorrow. So I'd love to get a little bit of that knowledge in my head. Back to the kind of the economics. Again, the $150 for versus for the kind of the base, it would have been nice to get a little bit better understanding of. And this is from behavioral. I'm an economist by training. I went to that other school in the Raleigh-Durham area, by the way, so you can see the flag back there. But the behavioral economics 101 is small, medium, and large. And if you offer people small, medium, and large, 80% of them, 90% pick medium, and you want them to pick medium, right? So I think that was what Rob was alluding to earlier. $150 is great as the entry point, but what do you really want to sell people, right? You probably want to sell them that entry point plus a little bit of the professional writer to kind of finish it off, if you will. And I will tell you, I've got, my mom's 80 some odd years old. My father-in-law is 90 some odd years old. I'd love to be able to offer something like this to them, right? To be able to get a lot of their stories down on paper, if you will. Great job on the presentation. You got a very, very interesting market here, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Sophia, one other thing. So Daniel and I are your perfect target markets. We're old guys that have aging parents.
Exactly.
And my immediate thought is that wouldn't this be a cool Christmas present for everybody in my family, that you go and interview my mom, she tells her story, and then I pass out the books for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get so my challenge to you is, how do you get to the old guys like us through digital marketing?
Yeah, so far we haven't actually done any marketing at all. And I think if we fundraise, the goal would be getting an expert in, because there's only so many hats you can wear and not know. And I'm not the right person to know. So you kind of have to sometimes realize, like, when you don't know something, and kind of bring people on together. Definitely not.
It's very similar to undergrads, that presentation. You know, they're doing a lot of digital marketing already. I mentioned that I just happened to go to their website yesterday, and next thing you know, I got retargeted through a Facebook ad. I think that's the type of thing that you want to be able to implement so people can find you.
Yeah, for sure.
And then target, our demographic, basically.
Yep.
100%. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Sophia, for that pitch. Virtual applause. And thank you, Daniel and Rob, so much for being panelists, providing feedback, asking those questions. We really appreciate you guys coming on time and time again to help these companies through these presentations. So thank you guys so much. Real quick, yes, a little applause there for Rob and Daniel. Thank you guys. All right, so moving forward, one more announcement here. Let me get the shared screen again. One more quick announcement for anybody who might be interested in technology. There is a new program here in town called the Tech Elevator. It's a 14-week software development boot camp, and they're starting their Java cohort November 30th. They have 11 full ride scholarships. This is in partnership with the city of Charlotte that has helped to create these for anybody who might have been impacted by pandemic. You can learn more about the program at techelevator.com/Charlotte. The deadline to apply is November 18th. So if you have an interest in that program, definitely check that out. In just a minute, we're going to say goodbye to everybody who's following us on Facebook and YouTube, and we're going to go into breakout rooms for a networking portion where you're going to get an opportunity to meet with the founders and learn a little bit more about their companies, ask them questions, offer them your advice, whatever